Minwei Chi Nan. Volume 3, A Man's Good Dream Becomes Reality. Chapter 124. Making Money in Winter. When Lei Daqiang finished the details, the village chief wrote down what was said on the document and read it again. No one objected. The village chief, Lei Daqiang, Lei Xiangren, Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, and Lei Xiangji all pressed their thumbprints, and each kept a copy. Lei Xiangji did what he said and gave a 100-tael silver note to Lei Xiangren. Both Lei Daqiang and Du Shi cast covetous eyes at the silver note. Lei Xiangren could read a few characters, but he still gave it to the village chief for confirmation before he was relieved and put it into his clothes. He and Zhao Shi looked at each other with a grin and held their heads high while looking at people with their noses turned skyward, showing a totally changed of attitude. When the village chief got up to leave, Qin Mian and Lei Tie took the opportunity to leave with the village chief. Lei Xiangren spoke without delay. "Father, Mother, Xiaoniang will give birth in a few months and San Lang's wife is also pregnant. It's too crowded to live together. I'm going to buy a lot for our house right now. I'll strive to complete the house before the new year and move out." Lei Daqiang looked at him for a long time before he nodded. Lei Xiangji said in a low voice, "Father, Mother, I'll also move out as soon as possible." Lei Daqiang frowned, "Moving out to where?" Lei Xiangji smiled, "Many thanks for father's concern. I'm going to build 2 mud brick rooms first, and the rest will have to wait until I save more money." Lei Xiangji was his son after all, so Lei Daqiang still had some concerns. "How can 2 rooms be enough?" "Well then, Lao heir, lend some money to your third brother so he can build 2 more rooms." "Father, don't think that 100 silver taels are a lot. I want to build a house, buy furniture, and send Dabao and Erbao to study. Which of these doesn't cost money?" Lei Xiangren gave Lei Xiangji an idea. "San Lang, you'd better go to Dagur's house to borrow money. Dagur and eldest sister-in-law don't lack money." "Yet," Zhao Shi chimed in. Lei Xiangji shook his head and said, "No need. I've decided to build 2 mud brick rooms first." Qian Shi didn't interrupt. Qin Mian and Lei Tie had already lent 10 silver taels to them, and she would be stupid if she let others know about it. After Qin Mian and Lei Tie went home, they continued to make dumplings. The dumpling filling was made of ground wheat, lean meat and deep-fried dough sticks, flavorful and delicious. After eating, they went into the magical space. The brown bear was still recuperating in the magical space. Its injury was almost healed. It was having fun playing with Dian Bai in the magical space. Lei Tie thought that Qin Mian wanted to go and see the brown bear first, but contrarily, he went straight to the flower bed and reached out his hands to gently stroke the pink balls. The 2 pink balls had completely split and looked plump and lovely. When Qin Mian and Lei Tie touched them, their colors immediately became vivid. It was very fascinating. Qin Mian couldn't tell what he felt now. The 2 pink balls seemed to be connected with his heart. Even outside the magical space, he could still feel some sort of connection with them. Lei Tie scooped a ladle of spiritual spring water and handed it to Qin Mian. He stared thoughtfully at the 2 pink balls for a moment and turned his head to look at Qin Mian. The man's stare gave Qin Mian the creeps. "What are you looking at?" "You." Qin Mian said calmly, "Go ahead. Now that the brown bear's wound is healed, we'll send it back to the mountain." It was just a joke when he said that he wanted to keep the brown bear. They went out to the back of the mountain. Since they put the effort to save the bear, it was impossible for them to kill it anymore. To prevent it from going down the mountain and hurt other people, they went all the way deep into mountain before bringing out the brown bear and Dian Bai. As soon as Dian Bai found that the surrounding scene had changed, it knew it was out of the magical space and understood that the masters were going to release the brown bear. It howled a few times at the brown bear and then left with Qin Mian and Lei Tie. The brown bear stood still for a moment, turned and walked away. Its huge body disappeared into the dense forest. The next morning, Qin Mian was awakened by Lei Qin Lei's scream. After asking about it, it turned out that at dawn, the brown bear lay quietly at the gate with a 40 to 50 jin wild goat with a broken neck on its back. Lei Qinlei had gotten up early. When he opened the gate to clean up the fallen leaves, he got a big fright. Since then, the brown bear had become domesticated like Dian Bai. Every time the villagers mentioned leisurely farmhouse, they had strange expressions. In the past, they would gather together to chat under the big trees near the gate of leisurely farmhouse. However, ever since the brown bear settled in Qin Mian's house, they wouldn't want to come even if they were beaten to death. At first, the people in leisurely farmhouse were also frightened. Later, they found that as long as they didn't provoke the brown bear would just ignore them. They then felt relieved afterwards. And Dian Bai got itself a companion. They were often not at home. At the end of the 10th month, the sweet oranges in the orchard began to ripen. The fruiting period of sweet orange was from the 10th month to the 12th month, and the late ripening varieties could last from the 2nd month to the 4th month of the next year. Leisurely farmhouse had entered another busy season. Qin Mian hired people to make 5,000 preserved sweet oranges, 5 large jars of sweet orange sauce and 20 large vats of orange juice to sell in spring and summer. At the same time, Double Xiang House launched orange cake, orange soup, and orange rice wine juice. The 11th month was the harvest season of the lotus root. For several months, Lei Qinzhong and his group had trained not only in self-defense skills but also archery, horsemanship and swimming. The work of digging lotus roots was handed over to them. There were a few more dishes added on Double Xiang House's menu and Qin Mian's table, such as lotus root and spare ribs soup, deep-fried lotus root, osmanthus glutinous rice filled in lotus roots, sweet and sour lotus root, diced assorted lotus root with chili, lotus root balls, and so on, all of which caused people to have a deep attachment. Due to many works at home, Qin Mian and Lei Tie did not go to help Lei Xiangren and Lei Zionji in building their new houses. It was not until Lei Zionji invited Qin Mian and Lei Tie to his housewarming banquet did Qin Mian vaguely recalled that the separation of the old house had been settled. The land that Lei Zionji bought for his house was in the south of the village. On the 3-room home ground, 2 mud brick rooms had been built. In one room, one half was a kitchen and the other half was a side room of Lei Zionji and Qianxi. The other room was the central hall. There was a heap of firewood outside the house. When the housewarming banquet ended, Lei Zionji sent off the guests and asked Qin Mian and Lei Tie to stay for a while. Qianxi served tea to Qin Mian and Lei Tie and then sat quietly aside to sew an article of small clothing. Qin Mian asked about the charcoal's business. I heard that you have already started charcoal burning. Have some been sold? Lei Zionji looked very relaxed. We started it a month ago and the first batch of charcoal was about 3,200 jin. Because it's good smokeless charcoal, it sold at a high price of 8 wen per jin. The first batch of charcoal sold for 25 silver taels. Second brother cut less firewood, so he was given 5 silver taels, while fourth brother and I got 10 silver taels each. It's all thanks to Dagur and eldest sister-in-law. I can't even begin to say how grateful I am. Afterward, if you two need me, just say it. By the way, I have discussed with Si Lang that when the second batch of charcoal comes out, we will send 500 jin to you. Qin Mian nodded. Since San Lang and Si Lang have this intention, I will accept it. However, the procedure is given to you all, so it is yours. It has nothing to do with us anymore. The matter of the procedure is over and done with. Lei Xianggren's home lot was bought in the east of the village, which was the first house in the village on that side and separated by 4 houses from the old house. The area of the home lot was not small. Qin Mian estimated that the lot alone cost at least 15 silver taels. Lei Xianggren's house construction started almost at the same time as Lei Zionji's, but his house was bigger, more complex in structure and slower in progress. It still needed 4 to 5 days to finish. However, the layout could be seen. There was not only a front yard but also a backyard. The gate of the front yard was very imposing, very similar to that of the rich families in the town. Both sides of the gate had a room opposite the main house. In the middle of the main house was the central hall. On the left side of the central room was a kitchen and a side room, and on the right side of the central room were 2 side rooms. A small door in the central room led to the backyard. The chicken house, pig house, latrine, and vegetable garden were all in the backyard. Zhao Shi had already told the villagers that she wanted to make a small flower garden in the front yard, and invited everyone to be her guests when it was done. After the house was built, it looked quite imposing and considered to be unique in the village. As expected, Zhao Shi made a flower garden in the front yard and even ran to leisurely farmhouse to ask for flowers. Qin Mian was too lazy to deal with her and directly let by Diane and the brown bear guard at the gate. Zhao Shi left resentfully. She spent money to buy some flowers in the town and asked Lei Xiangren to dig some in the mountain. Lei Xiangren gladly and diligently dug flowers at the foot of the mountain. However, he mistook a snake for a stick and was bitten. Fortunately, the snake was not poisonous, but Lei Xiangren's leg became swollen. He lay in bed for several days. This incident became a topic of ridicule that circulated around Green Mountain Village for several days. The new house had been drying for less than half a month when Lei Xiangren and Zhao Shi couldn't wait anymore and moved in. Qin Mian and Lei Tie once passed by and looked at the house from outside. They concluded that Lei Xiangren had already spent at least 40 silver taels out of the 100 silver taels. But alas, it had nothing to do with them. 2 days later, Lei Xiangji was on school break and Lei Xiangren set the day of his housewarming on this day. The reason why Qin Mian and Lei Tie kept in touch with the old house before was only for the sake of Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, Lei Xiangji, and Lei Chuntao. Now that Lei Xiangren had separated and moved out, his relationship with Lei Tie was further weakened. Qin Mian and Lei Tie had no intention of making a deep relationship with Lei Xiangren. They went to the town on the pretext that they had something to do and didn't attend the housewarming banquet. They only had Lei Qinlei send over a basket of sweet oranges. After returning from the town, Qin Mian listened to Lei Qinlei saying that Lei Xiangren and Zhao Shi had said some sarcastic remarks after receiving the congratulatory gift. The gist of it was that they thought the gift was too poor coming from Qin Mian and Lei Tie who were rich. Qin Mian and Lei Tie didn't care. Qin Mian felt that talking with Lei Xiangren and Zhao Shi was a waste of effort. He dared to bet that with Lei Xiangren and Zhao Shi's temperament, sooner or later they would cause a big trouble for themselves. He had already thought to gradually sever the relationship between their family and Lei Xiangren. Afterward, as long as there was an opportunity, they would completely cut off the relationship, so as not to be implicated later. Lei Qinlei also mentioned another thing. Lei Xiangren, Lei Xiangji, and Lei Xiangli had broken up on their joint efforts in the charcoal business, mainly because Lei Xiangren was always lazy and cut less firewood, and he often didn't help during charcoal burning. Lei Xiangji suggested that they sell the charcoal burning procedure and divide the money directly. The quality of the charcoal made with this procedure was very good. Lei Xiangji and Lei Xiangli didn't want to sell the procedure. Later, they were convinced by Lei Xiangji and planned to make another batch of charcoal before selling the procedure. Qin Mian did not ask much about this matter. Fast forward to the 12th month, Lei Xiangji and Lei Xiangli sent 500 jin of charcoal to leisurely farmhouse. They took the initiative to mention about selling the charcoal methodology to Qin Mian and Lei Tie. It was sold for a total of 200 silver taels. Lei Daqiang and Du Shi believed that the recipe was given by Qin Mian and Lei Tie before the family separation, so it should be counted as belonging to the family's finance. The 200 silver taels were divided into 5 parts. Lei Daqiang, Lei Xiangren, Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, and Lei Xiangji each got 40 silver taels. Lei Xiangji did not at all want this money but insisted to divide it among Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, and Lei Chuntao. Lei Chuntao got 10 silver taels saving for her dowry, and Lei Xiangji and Lei Xiangli each got 15 silver taels. Lei Xiangji and Lei Xiangli had no choice but to accept them. However, they both inwardly decided to give the money to Lei Xiangji when he took part in the provincial examination. In the 12th lunar month, Qin Mian and Lei Tie transported preserved yellow peaches and preserved honey peaches made in summer to Double Xiang House. One jar was priced at 1 silver tael and sold for a limited amount every day. Those who wanted to buy it would have to hassle with others. The vegetable and leisurely farmhouse's greenhouse also began to mature red tomatoes, green chives, 3-colored amaranths, green peppers, bitter gourds, fresh cucumbers, plump eggplants, and huge white gourds thrived. There were only a few kinds of vegetables in winter. Everyone couldn't stand eating those same kinds of vegetables every day. When these summer vegetables appeared on Double Xiang House's menu, it caused a sensation in the whole of Zhaoyang County. Even if a plate of fried amaranth was sold at a high price of 100 wen, Double Xiang House was still a full house every day. Even the rich and noble families in the neighboring counties often came to Double Xiang House to eat. On this day, it was supposedly Manager Sun's day off. Qin Mian and Lei Tie were going to the town to stand in for him. In passing, they would send over a hamper of tomatoes, a hamper of cucumbers, and a hamper of eggplants. Lei Chuntao came in a hurry, with a happy face. Degur, eldest sister-in-law, Sigur is going to be engaged. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 125. The end of year approaches. Several servants in grey cotton-padded jackets and grey winter hats efficiently carried hampers of vegetables onto the carriage. Dian Bai lay on the side of the carriage, its 2 paws were playing with a tomato like a ball. Which family's daughter? Qin Mian took a big and red tomato from the hamper and handed it to Lei Chuntao. Thank you. Lei Chuntao's face was red due to the cold as she took the tomato, but because it was too cold, she took out a handkerchief to wrap it. It's the second daughter of Aunt Xiaolan, called Xiaoyu. Fellow villager? That's good. Qin Mian was surprised. Very few people in Green Mountain Village were willing to find a daughter-in-law or son-in-law in the same village, mainly considering that living in the same village would make it more awkward in case of conflicts between the husband and wife. It was getting colder and colder, so much so that white air puffed out when one spoke, almost forming icicles. As they chatted, Lei Tie put a hat, a scarf, and gloves on Qin Mian's body, one by one. Seeing this, Lei Chuntao was envious and couldn't help imagining whether her future husband would treat her as well as her Degur treat her eldest sister-in-law. Xiaoyu is a good-natured girl. It's good that she is going to be my 4th sister-in-law. Lei Chuntao's eyes had a touch of mirth as she continued. Mother had mentioned a few girls to Sigur, but he wasn't interested. Today, as soon as the matchmaker introduced her, Sigur agreed right away. Ever since Lei Xiangji became a licentiate, she became even more supercilious. Qin Mian remembered that Aunt Xiaolan's family was only average. Would she agree? Has the date of the marriage been fixed? Asked Qin Mian. Lei Chuntao said, not yet, only the first one of the 6 etiquettes has been performed. I was so happy that I couldn't help running over here to tell Degur and eldest sister-in-law first. /Note, 6 etiquettes refer to the rituals that had to be followed in order for the couple to be married. Qin Mian was just about to tease her if she was anxious to get married because she was so concerned about Lei Xiangli's marriage, but then he remembered that this was a conservative era. He only smiled and left it at that. Are you two going out? I won't delay you anymore. I'm leaving. Lei Chuntao waved her hand and quickly ran away. Lei Qin Shun then came forward, eldest young master, little young master. The vegetables and fruits for transport have all been loaded. Set out, Lei Tie concisely ordered and boarded the exclusive carriage with Qin Mian. Dian Bai jumped up and looked out from the back window. The carriage in winter was quite different from that in summer. Thin blankets were hung on all sides of the carriage wall to fully block the wind. Only one part was reserved at the window to receive the ray of light. Even so, it was still darkness inside of the carriage. To remedy it, one could only hang a windproof lantern. Qin Mian had an impulse to invent glass. The transparency of glass was good, but the manufacturing cost was too high after all. LIAN closed the door and sat down beside Qin Mian. LIAN drove the exclusive carriage at the front, and LIAN Shun drove the carriage with vegetables at the rear. The two carriages drove smoothly out of the village. On a winter morning, the sun was somber. Between the sky and the ground, there seemed to be a layer of gauze, with mist and drizzle. When the biting cold wind blew in fits and starts, the bare branches incessantly shook, bleak and lonesome. The villagers who used to be gossip no longer hung around outside. They closed the doors and windows and stayed at home. Even the chickens hid in the corner with their necks shrunk, and at the sound of the wheels, they jumped up in surprise, so much so that several pieces of chicken feathers fell away with the wind. Qin Mian had yet to perfect his cultivation, so he still felt cold even though he was wearing a woolen hat, scarf, and gloves. LIAN stretched out his long arms and embraced Qin Mian. Then, he took off his wife's gloves and pressed both of Qin Mian's hands under his overcoat's armpits. Face to face, eyes to eyes, both men's breath entangled together. The atmosphere in the carriage suddenly became ambiguous. Qin Mian's breathing was a little hurried, but he was unwilling to pull his gaze out of the tenderness within LIAN's eyes. LIAN lowered his head to approach. Soft and warm kisses gently fell on Qin Mian's forehead, nose, and finally lips, where it was gently licked, nipped, and sucked. Qin Mian also opened his mouth to lick the man's lips, but was caught in a gap and deep kissing ensued. The enthusiasm of the two was finally cooled by the fact that they wore too much clothing. "You're very warm." Qin Mian leaned comfortably on LIAN's shoulder, his fingers deliberately scratched the man's armpits. After he acutely sensed that LIAN's body shrinking away and the man then clamped his hands, he burst into a fit of laughter. LIAN's lips lightly grazed on his wife's face. "Eat something." Qin Mian shook his head. "No. You ate too little breakfast." From the magical space, LIAN took out a small plate of lovely still piping hot steamed meat-filled dumplings of about a dozen. Qin Mian lay on his stomach, motionless. He opened his mouth and looked at LIAN with the corner of his lips dyed in a light color of a smile, revealing his innermost joy and satisfaction. LIAN wiped his hands with a handkerchief and picked up the small steamed meat-filled bun to feed his wife. "You eat, too." LIAN ate one, and the rest was fed to Qin Mian. After that, he took out a bamboo tube from the magical space. Qin Mian refused. "No, I don't want to grow into a fatty." "Won't." LIAN unfastened the lid and put the tube to his wife's lips. He could only open his mouth and drank 2 mouthfuls before he shook his head. "No more." LIAN didn't force him to drink the rest of the soup. He put away the tube and plate, and held his wife tightly again, not letting a little bit of wind get to him. "Tie, it's now the 12th month. When will our shops and workshops be on holiday?" After eating savory restaurants 1 year rent expired, Qin Mian decided to continue renting the shop and ready-to-eat meals as before. Since the 10th month, hot and spicy soup, barbecue, and hot pot were added back to the menu. LIAN said, "Double Siang House and Eating Savory Restaurant can close on the 24th of the 12th month and open on the 8th of the 1st month. The workshops will close on the 24th of the 12th month and open on 16th of the 1st month." Qin Mian had no objection. When is the big adventure of sweeping away the old and starting afresh? Let manager soon send people to inform the Diamond members and try to arrange it before the new year. LIAN had a plan in mind. It was very busy this winter. So much so that his wife seemed to be a little thinner. Dealing with the trivial matters earlier would let his wife have a good rest for a few days. "All right, I'll come along with you, too." The two talked about this all the way, and time passed quickly. The carriage stopped at the gate of the Double Siang House. When the staff saw the Lei and Qin on the carriage, he quickly came forward. Qin Mian reluctantly took out his hands from LIAN's armpits. LIAN then covered his hands with warm gloves. Mian asked the staff to take the vegetables to the kitchen. A few baskets of sweet oranges for the diamond members were also taken away. Wife, I'm going to make rounds. After LIAN said it to Mian, he went to Rugui building first. Mian entered the lobby. Manager Soon was still busy behind the counter. Manager Soon, isn't today your day off? Go back earlier and have a rest. Manager Soon laughingly said, Greetings, little young master. Our shop is busy these days, so I won't be taking the day off today. Since he voluntarily offered, Mian would not refuse. Sure. Thank you for your hard work, Manager Soon. Next year, we will hire an assistant manager. By then, Manager Soon can be more relaxed. As soon as Manager Soon heard assistant manager, he understood that the two masters were still very appreciative of his service. He felt grateful and decided to put more effort into his work. Thanking the little young master for your consideration. Mian asked, have some diamond members been here recently? If they don't come, let someone send them the fruits and ask them which day they have free time before the 24th of the 12th month. It's almost the end of the year. Double Siang House is about to launch the big adventure of sweeping away the old and starting a fresh activity. Yes. Manager Soon said, Young Master Nai and Young Master Mu are here today. I'll let them know in a little while. There is one more thing to report. His expression was a little grim. Mian motioned for him to go to the lounge. Little young master, it's like this. We limit 2 jars of preserved fruits for each person. But yesterday afternoon, I learned that the preserved fruits we sold were actually bought by young Master Nai. As far as I know, he sold all that he bought to Qingtian Prefecture with the price of 3 silver taels for each jar. Because he sent different people to buy it, we didn't notice at the beginning. Please forgive my mistake, little young master. Nai Hung was indeed a profiteer. Mian shook his head slightly, so that's the case. No problem. We have our Glimmer of Paradise brand on the jars. Even if he sells it to the capital of the country, he also helps us to promote. But, our main source of customers is around Zhaoyang County, so it's better to sell it to nearby customers. Even if Nai Hung went to the prefectural capital to give us publicity, people in the prefectural capital might not want to go all the way to Double Siang House to eat. Therefore, we should not let Nai Hung continue to take advantage. Nai Hung's advantages over him and LIAN laid in that he was more powerful in business and had wider cargo transportation. Mian was very clear about these. The development of their business should be based on the principle of what was safe for them to do. A great many things should not be done in a hurry. Manager Soon was worried. Well then, what should we do now? Mian thought for a moment. Then, with a sly smile on his face, he said, from today onwards, people can only buy the preserved fruits with membership cards. If Nai Hung can find the members who bought it and persuade them to resell it to him, then we can only credit it to his capability. Manager Soon praised, little young master is brilliant. On the other end, LIAN just crossed the bridge when Nai Hung and Mu Chen came from the opposite side. Boss Lei. Nai Hung cupped his hands in greetings, haven't seen you for a long time. LIAN nodded, hope that you two are well. Thanks to your well wishes, said Nai Hung. Boss Lei and Boss Qin have always been inseparable. Mu Chen came forward at this time and looked behind LIAN. Since Boss Lei is here, Boss Qin must have come too. May I know where is he now? We want to talk with him about a business that we have. LIAN looked at him, same as talking with me. Mu Chen was taken aback, not knowing how the man's sudden precaution came about. Nai Hung lightly coughed as he secretly patted Mu Chen's back and asked LIAN, do Boss Lei and Boss Qin have time to talk things out? LIAN leaned sideways, gestured a please sign, and turned back to go to the bridge. Nai Hung and Mu Chen looked at each other and kept up. Mu Chen mouthed, too reticent to Nai Hung. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 126. Selling Formula for Growing Off-Season Vegetables. Double Xiang House's lounge had always served as a meeting room. On the center of the table was a basket of sugar-fried chestnuts. Qin Mian sat at the table while peeling the chestnuts to eat. There were a charcoal brazier and a small stove beside him. A kettle of water was heating on the stove. White smoke constantly emitted from the spout of the kettle, floating upward. Dian Bai lay on the settee with its head on Qin Mian's legs. When Lei Tie opened the door and saw Qin Mian's appearance of eating chestnuts on his legs, his eyes turned warm. "Please come in." However, he did not enter the door immediately. Only after Qin Mian had sat up properly did he walk into the room. Qin Mian wiped his mouth clean and regained the elegant bearing of a young master. He gave Niheng and Mu Chen a small smile and said as he cupped a fist, "So it's young Master Ni and young Master Mu. Please sit down." "Sorry to bother." Niheng and Mu Chen sat down opposite Qin Mian. Mu Chen attentively watched Dian Bai in amazement. He had heard that the two owners of Double Xiang House raised a wolf. It was the first time that he saw it. This wolf had a strong and muscled body with an arrogant attitude. It was truly extraordinary. Dian Bai jumped out of the settee and stretched out. It went to lean over the table and stared at the chestnuts on the table. Qin Mian picked up the kettle and steeped 2 cups of tea. Lei Tie pulled back Dian Bai's head and sat down beside Qin Mian. He moved the small basket of sugar-fried chestnuts to his front and peeled the chestnuts quietly. The shelled chestnuts were placed on the plate in front of Qin Mian. After the exchange of greetings, Qin Mian asked, "What brings you two here?" Because he was no stranger to Niheng, his tone was more casual. Niheng said with a smile, "We are sending you money." "Oh." Qin Mian was non-committal. "That's good indeed. As long as Boss Nai doesn't want to make money off of me, I'm relieved." Niheng surmised that he learned about the preserved fruits. He coughed dryly. "Boss Qin overstated." "Qin Mian, knowing that you dislike beating around the bush, I'll tell you the truth. Mu Chen and I want to buy a lot of your summer vegetables. The price is negotiable." According to his estimation, Double Xiang House had made at least 5,000 silver taels since it had these vegetables. How could he not be envious? Not only that, but Double Xiang House also took away many customers in Zhaoyang County with these vegetables, which had a significant impact on the business of the Nai's wine house. Qin Mian motioned for them to drink tea. "You ought to know that our vegetable production is not big, only enough to supply Double Xiang House." "I do know that." Niheng reminded him. "However, you should also be aware that no one has ever been able to grow summer vegetables in winter before. You can imagine how eye-catching your vegetables are. According to my intelligence, the news has reached the prefectural city. I believe it will not be long before people will come to inquire for information. If you cooperate with me and Mu Chen, it will not only bring you rich profits but also ease off most of the pressure from you. What can you have against it?" "Most of the pressure." Qin Mian keenly grasped the keywords. Qin Mian's appearance of showing an interest made Niheng more confident in persuading him. He nodded his head and said, "Yes. My Nai family's root is actually in Qingtian Prefecture. We have engaged in business within 5 generations, our influence is deep-rooted. And Mu Chen's family is even better. He's not from Zhaoyang County but from the capital city. I can't tell you his identity for the time being, but I can say that if someone covets your formula for growing off-season vegetables, Mu Chen can stop it." Light flashed past in Lei Tie's black eyes. This was why he was wary of Mu Chen. From the first time he saw Mu Chen, he vaguely felt that Mu Chen's identity was not so simple. Mu Chen was born with a noble aura. No matter how he suppressed it, some still leaked out. Qin Mian was silent. He had hesitated for a long time before growing the off-season vegetables. As Niheng said, the off-season vegetables were indeed eye-catching. Some shrewd people might think about whether summer fruits or grain crops could also be grown in winter through the same method. If someone thought he could grow grain crops in winter, it would be very troublesome. The reason why he made up his mind later was that he did not have much involvement in growing the off-season vegetables. It could be said that Uncle Fu and the others figured out how the off-season vegetables could be grown successfully. Even if people were to investigate, they could not suspect him and LIAN. Nihang's words made Qin Mian suddenly think of another idea. He looked at LIAN inquisitively. LIAN tightly held his wife's hand on the table, looked directly at Mu Chen and said in a slow voice, "I have a good friend whom I'm very familiar with in capital city, but I haven't heard him mentioned a prominent family with the surname Mu in the capital." If Nihang's words were true, Mu Chen was just a pseudonym. Still, this probing was necessary. Mu Chen took out a token from the inside of his clothes and showed only half of it to LIAN. Noticing a sharp glint passing through the man's eyes, he was surprised and bewildered. As if nothing had happened, he put away the token. Boss Lei should believe it now. Qin Mian didn't see what it was, so he looked at LIAN. LIAN gripped his wife's hand and nodded slightly. Qin Mian thought of the word safety that he had been his guiding principle and smiled with relief. His line of sight went to Nihang and Mu Chen. "Since it is so, are you too interested in the formula for growing off-season vegetables?" Nihang was so happy that he almost knocked over the teacup. He solemnly asked, "Qin Mian, are you serious?" He had thought about buying the formula directly but didn't mention it as he believed Qin Mian would not sell it. To his surprise, aimlessly planting willow became a shade. "The formula for off-season vegetables can turn into a hot potato. Your decision is wise," said Mu Chen as he looked at Qin Mian directly. At this time, he had completely put aside the contempt for Qin Mian. Qin Mian said everything that should be said clearly, "But there is one condition. After selling the formula to you, my family can continue to grow off-season vegetables." Nihang picked up the teapot to replenish the tea for 4 people. "How many mu of vegetables does your family plan to grow?" Qin Mian said, "No more than 10 mu." Nihang and Mu Chen exchanged a look. "Sure. You have to make sure that you don't disclose the formula, or else you have to compensate us according to the number of leaks." As spectators, neither LIAN nor Mu Chen allowed the other to take advantage of the negotiation. "Of course." Qin Mian asked, "Now, can you tell me what price are you willing to offer?" Before Nihang was ready to open his mouth, Qin Mian raised his hand to stop him. "The formula may also be suitable for growing fruits, flowers, and even grain crops. So, Boss Nai, you should think clearly before you open your mouth." Nihang was rendered speechless and sighed in frustration. The profiteer would not leave him any chance to exploit the loophole. "Qin Mian, you and I are somewhat considered friends." Qin Mian drank the tea calmly. "There are no fathers and sons on the battlefield, no brothers in the affair of love. How can there be friends in the business world?" Mu Chen laughed as he applauded. "Good one, no fathers and sons on the battlefield, no brothers in the affair of love, no friends in the business world. Boss Qin is right. Which side are you on?" Nihang speechlessly glared at him. Then, he pulled Mu Chen to the corner, discussed in low voices for a while, and came back. 50,000 silver taels. How about that?" asked Nihang. A business was all about bargaining. He said 50,000 as a way of probing. Qin Mian shook his head. "Our family has 2 aspects that are not as good as yours. 1. We have not as many people as yours. 2. Our influence is not as big as yours. Otherwise, we will keep the formula and try to grow flowers, fruits, and grain crops later. Just imagine how much wealth it will bring. Boss Nai and young Master Mu, it seems that you two don't have much sincerity. You can make an offer," said Nihang with a smile. Qin Mian bluntly said, "Fixed price, 80,000 taels. 60,000. 80,000. Qin Mian repeated. 65,000 taels. 70,000 taels. 75,000 taels. Qin Mian unhurriedly said, 75,000. Niheng helplessly shook his head, fine, 75,000 taels. But we don't have so much money on us. We'll come back tomorrow morning. There were writing materials on the side of the desk. Qin Mian fetched them. Let's draw up the document first. Tomorrow morning, I'll send someone to pick you up from Double Xiang House to my house. After signing the document, I'll let people show you around the greenhouse and tell you in detail how to grow off-season vegetables. If you don't understand anything, you can ask on the spot. Niheng and Mu Chen both appreciate his magnanimity. Niheng said, "You are very considerate. Then, it's a deal." The two agreed on the terms and wrote them down one by one with careful consideration. After making sure that there were no loopholes, they made 3 copies. When the business talk was over, Qin Mian mentioned the big adventure of sweeping away the old and starting a fresh activity. Both of you are Diamond members. May I know when will you have leisure time? Only then that Niheng recalled this matter. Oh. After I get the formula, I have to find people to work on it. I'm afraid I will have no leisure time. Mu Chen regrettably said, in a few days, I'll have to return to the capital city. Qin Mian inwardly said, we'll be more relaxed if you two don't participate, but outwardly said, that's regrettable. Mu Chen bluntly put forward his opinion, Boss Qin, I don't think it's appropriate for you to set the time for the great adventure in winter. It's so cold in this season, I'm afraid few people are willing to go out. Qin Mian wore an expression of humbly receiving advice. Young Master Mu's words are reasonable. We will consider young Master Mu's opinion and strive for improvement. Niheng said, since neither of us has time to participate, can we get compensation from Double Xiang House as a Diamond member? Qin Mian shook his head in disapproval, that's not right. It's for personal reasons that you can't take part in the great adventure, not our fault. Therefore, please forgive us for not being able to do anything about it. Niheng and Mu Chen could do nothing about it. In any way, they couldn't take back the 20,000 silver taels. Double Xiang House had said earlier that the deposit couldn't be withdrawn. Well then, Qin Mian thought for a moment and said, you can pick some sweet oranges in the orchard tomorrow. Niheng and Mu Chen looked at each other with a smile, sounds good to me. It's getting late, we'll go back to Zhaoyang County. See you tomorrow. Please. As they sat in the carriage leaving Double Xiang House, Mu Chen said to Niheng, I'm afraid that Boss Lei is not just a farmer. Why do you say that? Asked Niheng. Mu Chen said in a low voice, first of all, it's because of his imposing manner. Besides, when I took out the token, I only showed him the decorative pattern on the lower part of the token. He seemed to recognize what it was. One might well ask, how could a farmer have seen such a token? Niheng nodded, you also know that I have always been cautious. Back then, when eating savory restaurant suddenly rose, I sent someone to investigate LIAN. I only knew that he ran away from home at the age of 12 and came back less than 2 years ago. Almost nothing has been found about the 10 years since he left. However, their Lei family has been in Green Mountain Village for generations, so there is no need to worry too much about it. As long as you are well aware of it. Since the autumn harvest, Qin Mian and LIAN had been busy at home. They seldom came to the town and thus accumulated a lot of account books. They had people send over the account books of both shops and checked the account books together. At noon, they had a hot pot in Double Xiang House. In the afternoon, the two continued to check the account books. When the sky darkened and the lanterns were lit, they finished the last account book. The final total amount uplifted their mood. It was worth it, their hard work for a year. As soon as Qin Mian stretched out, LIAN's hands fell on his shoulders and gave him a massage. From the establishment of Double Xiang House up to this point, it made a total income of 13,000 taels, and eating savory restaurant made 1,300 taels this year. We can be regarded as having a small asset, right? Qin Mian's face lit up with happiness, and a row of neat white teeth was displayed. Lei Tie nodded. Wife, I'll take you to the prefectural city on the Lantern Festival. Great! Qin Mian's heart felt warm. Is this a delayed honeymoon? He rubbed his flushed face and looked at the sky. It's getting late. Are we going home this evening? Go home. Lei Tie's fervent eyes stared fixedly at him. The honored guest suite is not home no matter how good it is. End chapter.